The idea behind this show to begin with is the whole notion of in 1966 I went to Roundstone in Connemara with my parents for the first time, and there I met a Franciscan brother called Brother William, and Brother William ran this amazing market garden, and it was the main veg shop, I suppose, for the village of Roundstone at the time. He taught me a lot about growing, about milking cows, and also making hay. That was the trigger point for this exhibition, and the title is called Harmony, Diversity, Nature's Circular Dance, is the title of the show. Colours for me are like emotional language. That emotional language changes as you're working through the process, but it also changes as the light in the studio changes, as the light moves around. So what I find really exciting at 9 o'clock in the morning mightn't feel very exciting at 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? It's to do with your response and how you respond to the colour. So that's where balance and form becomes really important for me. It is then, once I've got the balance and form, as in the studies, I might end up with these shapes in a canvas painting, but these shapes will change colour because the colour won't be fitting the emotion of the time of painting, I suppose. I also like that. I like that sense that like a poem, colour enhances the narrative of the painting, and it is through that narrative that I'm trying to find my directions into what it is I'm talking about. And for every painting that you're seeing here, 3 of them haven't worked. So it's always about that relationship between shape, form, and then the colour. But for this time round, maybe blues, pinks, greens became the colour of memory. And this show is the memory of growing up in Connemara, coming of age in Connemara, learning to do things that a city boy normally wouldn't learn to do, like milk a cow. Painting, for me, has to be about my love of nature and need to look at what are the things we can do to just help biodiversity. And one of the things that I feel quite strongly now about is making haystacks. So you will see especially in this big painting here, there is the shape of the haystack. And I have other paintings that are the shape of the haystack is in them, and then out of that comes these kind of wing-like shapes. And it was through the process of making and doing that I came up with this, I suppose, representation of the butterfly. In a traditional meadow field, there is a diversity of plant life, which is in turn keeping a diversity of flowers, of grasses, of then insects that specialize in those flowers and grasses. That's what I was thinking of when I started first. And that's why the whole idea of the show, the initial idea, was butterfly news. because I felt that a landscape that is rich in butterflies is giving us a good news story at a time when we're not receiving good news stories from the natural world, you know, with climate change, with loss of biodiversity, with loss of habitat, etc. For me, it is through abstraction that I enable myself to understand what it is I'm talking about. And that I can't put that into words, really. I can only say it is something that is an innate understanding of the language of paint and the language that I'm trying to use in the painting. So the process starts with writing down a few things, maybe reading some poetry. And this is what I do. I will sit reading and I would write down the ideas that are coming to me through the process of reading. For the first time this year, since we arrived, I never heard a cuckoo. Drift wherever the wind blows, cuckoo's call moves south, is what I was thinking about, that idea that the cuckoo is there somewhere, but for some reason it is not around us or within this environment anymore. And a lot of that has to do with farming methods and loss of habitat. I want the titles to have a magic that will enable the viewer to see something that I haven't seen. I spend as long over the titles as I do on the painting sometimes. Some of these ideas have been in, you know, I have notebooks with ideas in them for titles, with little drawings beside them of what I'm thinking of. And they will slowly but surely move forward as time goes on. So this painting here on the wall, I titled this painting, is called the Night the Crickets Gossiped. So I had a friend, Inge, who came over from Holland, and she was staying in the house with us. And one evening, Ruben came in when we were in the kitchen and said, the Aurora Borealis is supposed to be visible from here tonight. So at about 10 o'clock, we went out, the three of us went out into our backfield, and here was the Aurora Borealis in full display. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. I was just amazed by its, I suppose its gentleness, and yet its vividness of colour. We sat down in the middle of the field and we were watching it, and the next thing, this complete and utter crescendo of crickets started making amazing sounds. They were almost in awe of what was happening in the sky around them, and I'm sure there was some sort of change in energy in the atmosphere that enabled the crickets to get excited. But you know, as you start to paint these, you get the story of the painting, the story of what's happening. But as you paint the painting, other things happen. And that's what for me is so exciting about the painting process, is that other things happen as you're working through the painting process. You see things, you see colour. You know, you decide on your colour palette, and then you see those colours intermingling with each other, and something happens. I mean, like, look at what happens. So this is a Prussian blue over a mauve with this streak of French ultramarine through it, and then these lines here. So suddenly it became kind of very transparent and very layered. I spent hours working on that little section alone, just because I was getting excited about the way the paint was working. And that in turn started to inform the rest of the painting. Now I do have this one rule in my painting process, that if I find a piece of the painting that is working so well that it's enabling me not to work on the rest of the painting, you know, because then I paint that out. I get rid of that section to enable the rest of the painting to happen. But that came very late in the painting process, and I think it gives that idea of transparency and stillness and everything that was happening, whereas this has some of the movement of paint that was like the Aurora Borealis, which is, you know, undulating like a curtain, or like as Rubens said, they reminded him of sheets in the wind. And I thought it was a nice analogy of, you know, so, yeah. Okay.